Hey everyone, I'm Dino Bidala, and welcome to tonight's Dino Bidala show on SiriusXM channel 127, Friday, September 17th. Instead of being, a Friday, still sort of technically the summer, and maybe you can enjoy the weekend, what do we have to deal with? A MAGA terrorist rally tomorrow, Saturday in Washington, D.C. There is literally going to be a rally organized by a former Trump staffer, supported by Donald Trump through his statements, tomorrow in Washington, D.C., in support of the January 6th terrorists who attacked our Capitol. Let that sink in for a second. On U.S. soil, there's going to be a rally supported by the former leader of the Republican Party, the former president, to show support to demand the release of those January 6th terrorists still in prison. And they're doing it in Washington, D.C., where they attacked just 7 months ago. This is akin to an Al-Qaeda rally 7 months after 9/11 in New York City by Ground Zero, demanding the release of Al-Qaeda prisoners. That's what this is. January 6th was an act of domestic terrorism. Please use the term terrorist. Don't use the word insurrection. Insurrection doesn't mean much to anybody. But terrorism means something in America. We understand what it is. The GOP weaponized it for years. And now the same Republicans who demonize Muslims, saying, we supported terrorism, we knew who the terrorists were, we cheered on 9/11, these are all lies, are openly supporting the January 6th terrorists. This is not typical hypocrisy. This is life and death for our democracy. You have to keep this in mind. I wish more people, and I don't say this in any level of arrogance, I just wish more people would read more about history, especially about World War II, the lead up, how fascist movements take hold, and even in modern era, how authoritarians get elected in democracy and then chip away at it. From Hungary, Viktor Orban, probably the greatest example right now, in Poland, in Turkey, and other places as well. This is what happens, but this is worse. You've got a rally Saturday because the people who are still in prison, who are January 6th terrorists, are being treated unfairly. They're political prisoners. That's what the organizer of the event, Matthew Breinert, said. That's exactly what Donald Trump has said. In his statement yesterday, point blank, he said they're being persecuted and treated unfairly. And he continues to say, but look how the Antifa and Black Lives Matter protesters were treated. This is so unfair. First of all, you don't compare these acts of violence. As a lawyer, I'll tell you, you look at the facts of each one, you apply the law. The idea that Trump would do a whataboutism about a terrorist attack he incited is especially demented and dangerous. It's so detached from reality. Second, as I'll talk about on my show today, the Associated Press did a great breakdown about a month ago and documented that over 300 people were arrested in the Black Lives Matter protests last summer. And on average, they got 27 months in prison, which is more than the first person who pled guilty so far and was sentenced in the January 6th Donald Trump terrorist attack. So, no, they were fully prosecuted. That's a lie. And this is much bigger than maybe 500 people show up tomorrow, maybe 300, maybe 800. It's hard to say. Look at the polling, though. Look what's going on in the GOP. In a CBS poll in July found that 55% of Republicans, of Trump supporters, I should say, specifically Trump voters, 55% of Trump voters, they don't view January 6th as an act of domestic terrorism. They viewed it as an act of defending freedom. Same poll found that when at one time in January, over 50% of all Republicans strongly disapproved of January 6th terrorist attack, now that's down to 35%. So only 35% of Republicans, this is more broadly, all Republicans view January 6th and strongly disapprove. That was a terrorist attack to overthrow our election. And 65% don't strongly disapprove. It should be 100%. And this lie that these are political prisoners is outrageous. First of all, over 600 people arrested so far by Department of Justice and charged and being prosecuted. Only a fraction remain in jail. And the ones that do are very clear why they're there. They're the most dangerous. They are people who cannot be released to society because they are a threat. That's the words of judges who have looked at these cases, who made it very clear that you do not keep them, even though they're charged with this idea of storming our Capitol, unless they've been very clearly involved in beating up the police, assaulting police officers, organizing it, leading it, and that they have to be still a threat to the community. Here are some examples, and I wish the media would cover this much more. Daniel Ray Caldwell, he's being held. They're protesting tomorrow, the rally, when Trump says it's unfair, he's being persecuted. It's for people like this. Daniel Ray Caldwell, former Marine, lives in Texas, went from Texas to D.C., charged in 7-count indictment. What did he do? He brought chemical spray with him to the rally in advance. He even brought goggles designed to prevent the spray from hitting himself, and he sprayed at least 15 police officers with this chemical spray in their face. It's all on video. The court concluded, in looking at all the allegations and this man who showed no remorse, clear and convincing evidence supports a finding that no condition or a combination of conditions will assure the safety of the community if Daniel Ray Caldwell was released. That's one of the guys they're protesting for. There's Thomas Sibbick. Thomas Sibbick was one of the people involved in brutally beating Officer Michael Fanone. Michael Fanone testified in July before the January 6th committee about being grabbed, beaten, teased, and called a traitor to his country. Thomas Sibbick was not only involved in beating up the officer, he is accused specifically of stealing the officer's police badge, but more importantly, his police radio. And as the federal judge said in denying him bail, he deprived Officer Fanone of a lifeline by taking his radio, which he knew he was doing. He was doing that so he couldn't call for help. So he'd be left there alone and they could kill him. And Thomas Sibbick also lied to the FBI, saying he had no idea where the badge was. Then he said he knew where it was. It was thrown in garbage, and it wasn't. Turned out he buried it in his backyard. Others, you've got people like Jeffrey Sable, who the Justice Department said he grabbed a Metropolitan Police officer, dragged him down the stairs while beating him, then choked another officer with his own baton. That's who Donald Trump is defending. There are Oath Keepers and Proud Boys also held for violent acts. One for Trump out there hunting Nancy Pelosi to slaughter her, and in gathering weapons. He had weapons in a quick, rapid reaction force at a hotel across the river. These are the type of people that Donald Trump and his supporters are rallying in front. These are like Al-Qaeda terrorists. This is not hyperbolic. These are people who attacked our democracy to destroy it, to put in Donald Trump. And this is happening on our soil. And the fact there's not a deafening screams of outrage by all who believe in our democracy tells me something. And even people on our right, and I don't say this elitist, don't understand what fascist movements look like. Don't understand where this can head. You don't think it can happen in America. Well, I can assure you, in numerous other countries, they thought the same thing. And then they had authoritarian leaders and dictators for years to come. This is the trajectory of what we're going. There is no one in the GOP who will stand up to Donald Trump, not because they fear him, but because they agree with him. And while they might not like violence per se, they have no problem with it if it gives them the power they want. Today's GOP is not the old GOP. Today's GOP is a fascist movement. And what I mean academically is that it's using non-democratic means to gather and retain power, plus the use of violence. You bring those together, that's fascism. There's all these elements for fascism, but at its core, that's what it is. It is the retention and acquisition of political power using undemocratic or autocratic means, more technically, plus the use of violence. We're having a rally on our soil tomorrow in favor of terrorists who Donald Trump incited and who is defending, and Republicans are silent. You don't have to be a genius to get. I hope your spidey sense is tingling, because this is not right. So we'll cover that more in detail on my show today. My show's live 6 to 9 p.m. SiriusXM channel 127. I hope you'll check it out. If you don't subscribe to SiriusXM, check out free trials. Join the conversation. We got a lot of work to do. We have to stay active. It's not just if you want progress. If you want democracy, stay active. Thanks for tuning in.